Hello everyone, so today I was at a concert, specifically a Kaleo concert in Dallas, Texas. And I decided to try an energy technique that I have not tried around a crowd this big before. Now this energy technique I'm talking about is from the Psychic Vampire Codex, a manual of magic and energy work. And it actually isn't a book of negative magic as you might think. And it's by Michelle Belanger. But, you would think that, okay, psychic vampires, they feed on people, they take the energy without their knowledge or without their consent. And actually in the book, her and the specific kind of psychic vampires that she operates with, they focus on basically removing blockages in the spine so that energy can flow more freely in people's spines. They get to feed a little bit by feeding on that energy that's been blocked, that's been kind of compressed and blocked. And then the person also benefits by having a free moving energy along their spine. And how does this work? How does energy moving more freely along the spine benefit someone? You generally have more energy. You generally have more focus mentally. You generally have a higher ability to be patient and wise, and to critically think about any situation that you're in. And this is just from personal experience as far as the kind of blockages that occur in the spine and what they can actually do to you in the deficit of all these areas. And when those blockages are removed, then we have access to this greater mental acuity, which directly connects to basically spiritual prana, prana along the spine, which is like a form of spiritual energy that goes up and down the spine, and kundalini rising, if you will. And kundalini is just a little bit different, but I'm just talking about the free moving of energy along the spine right now. The ability to kind of harness your entire body's natural energetic momentum and bring it into your brain and utilize all the chakras to a better potential, greater potential. Means that you gain the benefits of all the chakras when you have a spiritual kind of conduit that is open, that doesn't have blockages. And there's different stages of this. What I'm talking about is just free moving energy. I'm not talking about conquering each chakra. And that stage, when you've risen kundalini all the way to the brain, you don't have the negative pull from any of the chakras. But really, I'm just talking about the energy at this point that freely flows when these blockages are removed. And then that's how the vampires in this codex feed. They don't feed on blood. They don't feed on people by trying to suck the energy out of them without them knowing. They remove blockages in people. And now she lists certain tactics that the other vampires use that basically robs people of their energy, and they might not even know it. You don't have to touch them. You just have to know how to do it. And they don't use those techniques, but there are ways to basically gather energy from a person just by being close to them, brushing up against them, just focusing on them, looking at them. There are ways to do that, and I've experimented with a couple ways, but I don't like to do it because it's a very negative action to take somebody's energy without them knowing, and not to help them, not to remove these blockages, not to allow them to kind of move forward away from whatever chakra they're trapped in, but to rob them of that spiritual energy to basically get a high and add to your own spiritual energy, your own spirit, your own life force, and basically trying to increase how much spirit and life force you have in you, so that you have more energy, so you have more focus, you have more magical power, I guess you could say, as well, most definitely. But okay, this has been a very long introduction, but let's get down to the technique, the energy technique I was talking about. Now, this energy technique doesn't rob people of their energy. It basically just gathers the energy that is, and I'm using the word energy, and I'm not being very specific about it, but you don't need to be specific about what kind of energy this is in order to gather this, to use this technique and gather energy. Other people might call it something else. They might call it natural. They might call it excess prana. They might They might call it magical current. They might call it the electrical nature of the body being released. But I just call it energy for the purposes of this video. Now, when I was in this concert around a lot of people, people naturally, when they're in big groups, and especially at places like a concert where there is a lot of high emotional energy, a lot of people in sync, either singing or clapping or just kind of raising each other's energy all together at once. There's a lot of expenditure of the energy that they have that they don't know how to retain. So they just kind of like let it go. And then this energy kind of floats. I'm being very, I'm summarizing this. It just kind of goes into the air, basically. Not necessarily the air, but just into the space around the group. And all this excess energy released by emotions, by groupthink, in either clapping, singing, or yelling, and also by just a camaraderie that happens when you have a big group of people that are smushed together for a certain purpose, in this case to be entertained. All this energy is just released into the air, and unless these people know how to get the energy back, they're going to lose the energy. It just goes out into the space around them. And when that energy goes out into the space around them, it can be basically fed upon. It can be gathered for an individual who knows how to do it. Now, what I found tonight is that I'm not as good at it when I'm drinking alcohol, because I've tried it when I don't drink alcohol, and this time when I was drinking alcohol, like, I could get that immediate buzz when the energy got into me, and I could get that immediate feeling like my kind of fuel tank, spiritual fuel tank, and also a bodily fuel tank just kind of rose, and I actually felt a little lighter, a little stronger, but it was very hard to focus on getting more and more of it. So I'd highly recommend not using drugs or alcohol when doing this. But okay, here's the visualization and how you actually do it. Now you might want to work out your own visualization, but just let me get down to the visualization that I used. Now, when I was visualizing this, and it worked pretty well for me, I imagined all of this red / white mist just in the air, and it was very easy because there's red lights and puffs of vape smoke, so it was very easy to visualize it. But I visualized it in my mind's eye, and there's a difference between seeing it and visualizing it in your mind's eye. You need to work on visualization if you have no idea what I'm talking about with the mind's eye. Visualizing it in your head while keeping your eyes open. You don't have to closing your eyes is not recommended for this, though you can. And I imagined all that kind of red and white mist kind of coming towards me, here's how I started with it. I imagined it going to the back of my head and inserting into the top of my spine and going straight into my brain. And it wasn't really, I did focus on the visualization, but it was more like I just had this feeling of gathering it and it moving to the very top of my spine and into the back of my head. Now, this feeling is developed over time when you're working with energy. Not everybody knows really how to activate this feeling within themselves of gathering energy that is almost non-corporeal to the human eye. If you look close enough, you can start to see auras and things like that, but almost non-corporeal. So I've developed this sense where I can basically get this feeling that all the energy is going to the back of my mind without just visualizing it. Though I did visualize it as well, and you have to start with visualization. Going to the back of my head and into the top of my spine and into my brain. And then that energy gathering, since there was so much of it, it was like swimming. It was kind of like this is just an analogy, and I wasn't starving, but it was like starving yet swimming in an ocean of milk. It's like there was just energy everywhere, and you could just drink as much as you wanted and bring it into you. But there was a cap, and the cap on that energy was because I had been drinking. And then that kind of limits your ability to both focus and gather energy, because that blocks your spine's connection to the brain. It blocks your ability to acutely focus on certain areas of the brain, or just in the mind in general as well. But it was an amazing feeling, and over time, after trying this technique for a while, I've done it before, I was like, okay, since this technique of going to the back of my head isn't as effective in this circumstance, especially when I've been drinking, I decided to kind of try and breathe that energy into my skin. And at that point, you have to work with visualization for a while before you really get it down to where you can you can just focus on this feeling and make it happen by the focus on this feeling. But you start with visualization. So I would highly recommend just visualizing everything I'm talking about and not just trying to focus on the feeling just yet if you're new at this. And so I started to try and gather the energy into my skin, like just allow it to kind of just go into me through all my pores. And all my pores felt really cool and invigorated, and it felt like I was in like a very cool, refreshing sauna, and it was just kind of gathering in my body, just drawing all this red and white mist. It's kind of a combination right into my skin, and just that feeling I can focus on. But if you're going to do it for the first time or you're not good at it yet, use visualization. Imagine it in your mind's eye, all this mist just going into your skin everywhere a pore is available, and also where there's clothing. If you can get that feeling down, it's easier if you don't have the clothing on, but obviously you're going to have the clothing on. Regardless, the clothing really doesn't get in the way. It's just harder to feel your skin as a membrane if it's there. But that worked even better. I was breathing that energy into my skin, and it felt good. And I felt like my spiritual energy cap had kind of gone to almost full. It was like, it goes, if you don't retain it, it goes down over time, but it was like breathing in life force. It was like breathing in some really oxygenated air that had maybe a twang of nicotine in it. And yeah, that's the energy technique that I wanted to share with you. If you have any questions, feel free to once again check out this book. This has been incredibly helpful. It's the Psychic Vampire Codex by Michelle Belanger, and I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but a manual of magic and energy work. So I highly recommend this book. It'll give you all the information you need. And thank you very much for watching. But if you have any questions for me personally, feel free to shoot them down in the comment section, and I would love a like or two. So thank you very much for watching, and y'all have a great day.